Rifle Club in Eagle Creek, Oregon. It's about, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 minutes from Portland to the east. And we shoot a couple big matches here every year. This happens to be the one that falls at the end of May, Memorial Weekend, and it is called the Berta Memorial. And quite a few people from our local area show up. We get a few out of towners. We definitely don't get the attendance that we used to, but it wasn't bad. I think we had maybe uh, 15 positions, three relays, 45 people, give or take. And this is the first time we ran it on electronics, so the match director was not super familiar with electronics, so there was a few learning curves, but overall it wasn't bad. Now you'll notice that I've got a canopy up here, some tarping and some poles that are in front of me here. And that is because it was a very wet weekend. So a couple of club members very graciously took it upon themselves to grab some old, and I mean old, uh, pop-up type stuff that covered 5 or 6 positions at a time and erect them. These ultimately ended up filling up with water over the day. We'd have to use 2x4s to dump all the water out, 2 or 3 gallons of water at a time. But it did keep it dry, and I would say between me and almost everybody else that came, we brought additional pop-ups, so we had the back half of the firing line pretty much covered. It kind of looked like a giant swap meet, but it actually wasn't bad. You didn't have to shoot in the rain. A little bit of mist or rain might hit you on the front side when you were shooting, but that was pretty easy to protect against. So, given the horrible conditions from a shooter standpoint, it wasn't bad. Now, again, first match, unfortunately, for the match director of this, and you can see the targets are way down here. It's an elevated target. I don't know, 2, 3, 4 degrees uphill. But boy, there were some struggles. At some points, it was just absolutely pouring rain. There was nothing done to try to prevent the sensors from getting deluged with water. Ultimately, on the second day, and I can talk about that a little bit later, but on the second day, I ran up with a couple people and we rotated all the sensors, and that definitely helped preserve shooting on the second day. But let's get into it. First day, Saturday, kind of a misting, heavier than kind of a pissy rain, but nothing that was like torrential downpour. So there'd be a little wave of rain coming through and maybe a little bit of overcast and some rain. It wasn't horrible. It was enough to collect, like I said, in the tarps, but overall, it was not a really, really bad rain. Uh, as a side note, this was originally supposed to be a Palma match, which means 800, 900, and 1,000, like I've talked about before. Because of the rain and the covered firing line and everything like that, it was turned into a long range 1,000 yard match. So the format went to 3 by 20 on Saturday and 3 by 20 on Sunday. It really doesn't affect the round count when you do that. It comes up 5 rounds shorter than running a Palma plus 20. So that part isn't bad. One other thing regarding these covers is that per the NRA rules, you can't just bring a pop up to cover yourself if it's raining. You can only use cover as long as everybody who's participating is able to have cover. So if everybody has a pop up over them, and everybody agrees on using the pop-ups, then you can have a covered firing line. So again, there was a lot of work that was done to ensure that the entire firing line was covered. Let's take a look at the first target of the day. Target number one. Not a fantastic start. I feel like it should have shot a little better. And I was shooting very tall. Now, one thing to note, and I do think it had an effect, I decided that I was going to test, and I knew it going into it, but I was testing the whole like scrubbing my necks, which I normally don't do, but I had done sort of a small little test, thought I had seen some good results, and thought, yeah, what the heck, I'll try it on this match because it's not like an A-level match. I definitely think that some of that attributed to my targets opening up elevation wise here. You can see that it's definitely a tall grouping. And the only reason I say that is that the entire week it shot pretty close to this on every target, like you'll see. But I just finished doing some testing at the exact same range with the exact same ammo, except no brushing in the necks. And my groups literally shrunk to less than half of what I shot here. So, and I'll be doing a video on that. But, look, it's not a bad way to start. There was, I don't think there was any, there might have been one clean on the open side, and a lot of 99s and 98s. I wasn't sitting real great dropping three, but it wasn't horrible. It was middle of the pack. You can see it started off again, unlimited ciders on the first string, so you do get some advantage there. You can see I got it pretty dialed in though. Cider 6, cider 7, 1 on was X, 2 on was X, and then something really picked up and snapped out of nowhere and pushed me out over here, which I really wasn't expecting, and I didn't really see much change. You can see I made a pretty good correction on that. So I can just tell you that for all these ciders, I was holding right about here at one line right, and they were dropping in, and then it went whoop all the way over here. I held out probably, I'm trying to remember here. It was going to be probably 2.5 to 3 lines out, and it pulled into a 4 here. That's why I saved it, and and then went on to 5, which centered up pretty good here. But then 6 went high, so you can see that this elevation issue. When you have a gun that is not shooting tight elevation, it makes your life more difficult because now you're having to adjust for two different things, or you just adjust for one thing and just suck it up that you're going to drop a couple points on elevation. So this wasn't making me happy in terms of how I was getting started. You can see 4, 5 went center, 6 went high. I corrected down for 7. 8 was here, 9 came down a little bit. I made an adjustment, still came low and caught 10 luckily, but right on the line. And then 11, then 12 was high. So you can see that it's just like this giant, like bang, bang, bang all over the target. That's working way too hard. I do not want to have to work this hard, especially to shoot a 197. It's bad enough if you shoot a 198, 199, or even a clean, working this hard, and I've seen plenty of guys do it. But to drop 3 points and have to work this hard, it's not a great way to get the day started. But you do what you do, and we move on. Now, if you look at the timestamp here, it's been a couple hours. We've been through. So I was relay 2, then there was relay 3, then relay 1 was up again, then it was my turn. So we went through some time. It's been a couple hours. Pretty similar conditions. Like I said, it was kind of in and out of rain all day. There was not a lot of wind. There was just a little bit pushing things out there. Usually, when it's raining, your wind drops off, and then if maybe it was in between rain, you'd get a little more wind. It was very strange weather, but nothing that couldn't be corrected for. Uh, Again, if you look at this elevation, like this, you sort of when you do this enough, you just go into it. And after I shot that first target, I just told myself, okay, like there's only so much I can do. I'm gonna play with the tuner a little bit, but at this point, it's tough. In hindsight, and hindsight's 2020. What I should have done during my ciders, had I recognized the problem, I should have messed with the tuner during unlimited ciders because the problem is once you're in this situation with two ciders, it's pretty tough to get a read on whether a tuner is helping or hurting you. And I think looking back at the target, if I look at where those ciders were, the reality is the cider sort of fooled me or lulled me into sort of a comfortability because I had cider. I had a 10, then a 9, well, a 7-7 just getting blown out, blowing out the barrel, and then a 10, and then a 9. That 9 was sort of within the X ring height. It was just off left a little bit, and then cider 4 or cider 6, again went X and then X again. And I felt like I just really felt like everything was pretty dialed in. Uh, it wasn't bad. Um, like I said, cider 3 was a nice 10. Cider 4, I should say, cider 4 actually came low left 9. So like that one probably should have given me a little pause, but then when cider 5 came in within X ring height, and then cider 6, cider 7 were really dialed in there. uh it was a little bit of a kind of a, and those aren't on this target. I'm talking about the previous target we were looking at, but those really, I should have probably read into it a little bit more, but it is what it is. So there's only so much you can do with these. I kind of knew where I knew I could move a little bit on my tuner, but it wasn't going to have a massive effect. but I did not do that. I kept the same tuner setting. I just kind of wanted to shoot it out on this one and see what happened. But exact same thing. You can see, sighter shot one, shot two, shot three, four. Like it was all shooting really well. There's five, there's six. It was nice and tight, and then seven, and then it kind of just started getting ugly on me. Eight, then nine, 10, 11. A little bit of vertical condition came in. The gun's not tight enough to hold that vertical condition in all the time. Sort of a compounding effect. So there's 11, then 12 came back in, 13, 14, it's feeling not too bad. And then 15 here, goes whoop up high, make an adjustment, whoop, 16 goes high, make another adjustment, whoop, 17 goes high. Really, really frustrating right here. And then, reined in 18, only to lose 19 out the side. Like this was just an ugly, ugly way to finish this because if you look over here, I mean, it was a really great start. 9-9, isn't always how you want to get running. Here's the first one, here's the second one. But, I got it, dialed in on my first one for record. So it felt great. And I was 15 shots in and then just, boom, 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 start dropping those. And, that's not fun. Um, I should say 15 caught just barely, but 16, 17, 19 all lost. So that's a rough way to end the string. But I can say that at least I knew I was shooting consistent. I shot a 197.8 on the first relay, shot a 197.8 on the second relay. Still wasn't doing horrible. I mean, I sure wasn't in the running to win or anything, but I was still middle of the pack and I wasn't feeling absolutely horrible as we went into the third.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, Stevens.
Yes, sir. Why that's sitting here.
Down and I mean it was really starting to pour at the end there. But that's actually not a bad thing. Rain actually is pretty enjoyable to shoot in from a target standpoint, as long as there isn't a ton of wind with it. The rain usually, like I said, when it's raining, it's usually pretty calm and you can really shoot well. This was not a great example of doing it. I came up one point and I shot a pretty good X count. I mean, 12 X is nothing to scoff at. And you can see that overall it was much tighter. I mean, with that rain, there was virtually no wind. It was pretty much a center hold the whole time. But outlined in blue here is sort of this weird thing. And I showed you a couple of them at the rattlesnake video previously that I posted a few days ago. And I think I've got this nailed in. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm fairly confident that I've eliminated this problem right here. But you're going to see this becomes a problem at this match. So out of the two shots I lost, they're down here on the right. Boom, boom. Now, I know you can say, well, this was a bad wind call, but I don't think it was. If you look at 8 and then 9 and then 10, 11, 12, this was not a wind issue. Like I would probably say maybe a 5% chance that something got caught on a weird gust that hit, but again, I don't think so. And same thing with 7 down here because you can see there's 6 and then 7 and then 8. So there's like this ping ponging that's happening. And I know that I'm at least fairly confident there was something in my gun handling that I was doing. So I highlighted this because you're going to see this show up a few times here on these next targets. And I don't want to say it's what lost the match for me because I had some other small issues. Obviously, you saw some of the vertical on the first couple targets. The conditions were strong enough, or at least they laid down enough. Like it was shooting strong enough that I was able to contain it within the 10 ring. It's still a very tall target, much taller than I want. But these two shots and where these are placed are going to be a constant source of problem for me, and they accounted for more than half of my missed shots. Now I only think I missed 11 points on the whole weekend, but that still put me in like seventh or eighth place, something like that. We'll take a look, but that was way too many to miss against the competition I was with. But this condition with me doing something is definitely what caused it. So again, good score. I'm not complaining about 198.12. It was a great position to be in on the last relay, especially in pouring rain conditions. Some guys weren't prepared for it. They did not shoot great. So I definitely picked up a place or two, but this little blue outline is going to be my problem, and you're going to see. So at the end of Saturday, you can see here's the aggregate. This is the aggregate score. Now, these are not in order. This match director doesn't put anything in order. It's just however it gets entered. So it's a little hard to read this. But you can see here, I'm in third place and I had a 592. You can see the top two guys were 597. So I was only 5 points back of first. That's a pretty big margin with only three relays left on Sunday, but especially because, I mean, Jason's an amazing shooter, Chris is an amazing shooter, CJ's a great shooter, Michael's a great shooter, Brian's a great shooter, Steve, like literally everybody in the High Master class are just stupid talented, amazing F class shooters. And then you've got some guys down here that are no slouches either. Tom's a great shooter, Jules is a great shooter. I honestly don't know these two gentlemen, but you've got a lot of people. 5 points is tough to make up, but you can see. I mean, I wasn't last. Let's see one. So I had a 592. There was an 82, an 88. 84, 90, 85. So. I mean, again, I was down there in the middle low of the pack. But, I thought, well, 5 points, you know, it's doable. I just need a couple really good relays and, see what happens on Sunday. You saw it was pretty foggy. It was tough to see. A lot of guys were struggling to, be able to see any rings on the target. Some guys were bracketing just the black. Fog is tough to shoot in. It can wash out a target very, very quickly. So I felt really fortunate to shoot a 198.11. I thought this was, I mean, honestly, I messed with my tuner a little bit. I had not messed with my tuner the previous day because I didn't have any unlimited siders, but, I committed to tuning my gun a little bit. You can see I took quite a few siders doing that, but look at how much tighter this gun shot. Like there's still 20 to, 8's low and 20's high, but the bulk of the shots were much tighter than you saw on my previous targets. But again, in blue, here is this weird thing that I did to myself where I'd pull one down to the right here, then I'd shoot up here one or two, and then boom, right back down here. And it was the exact same thing I did on the last target of Saturday. So, this had me frustrated because I knew that this was me. This isn't the load. Like when you start repeating shots like this, you have to be really honest with yourself about the fact that, okay, I'm doing something stupid or it's the load or the gun or whatever. This is very indicative of a shooter issue. And I say that not because it's a big group, but one, this is a pretty good group and these are outside of it. But two, it was repeating itself from the previous day in terms of what it looked like. There was something that was happening that was causing this. So, that's just the way it is. Now, the downside is this target's going to get thrown out. There were some issues with the rain. There were some shooters who didn't finish. And the match director made the decision to just scrap this entire relay. So, like a buddy of mine lost a 211 that he shot. Some other guys shot really well. But this target is not going to count towards my score, which, to be honest, I was a little bummed about. I thought it was a really good score for the conditions. It definitely was better than the bulk of the shooters, and I thought it was going to give me a chance to kind of catch up a little bit. But you know what? You go to matches and things happen, and you just got to be able to kind of roll with it. So this is one of those situations where you just roll with it and you say, well, take it for what it is. I shot it. It was a good score, but it's not going to count. So we're just going to move on. So let's move on to what ends up turning out to be the first match of the day that counts towards the scores.
Yeah, I can't see nothing. I would agree with you.
I shot a 197 on Saturday, then another 197, then a 198, then a 198, then a 197. So this would be the third 197 8X that I've shot out of 5 relays. And this is the what would have been match 5, but technically is the first match for record on Sunday. And you can see I circled in blue here just to help kind of illustrate. It's a little centered up, but it's the exact same pattern as the ones that were over here on the right side before. And again, it counts for 2 of my 3 drop shots. The other one was up here. Now, the tuner setting was working a lot better, and I definitely was feeling like it was shooting a lot better. I definitely had this high nine here, but these ones down here again, I don't think that they are environmental. I'm pretty sure they're shooter induced because they're following a very similar pattern in terms of what I'm doing. So, at this point, I was just having fun. I had no chance of, I mean, really had no chance. I mean, it wasn't that I wasn't not going to be shooting well, but there was just no chance that I was going to really make a lot of movement the way everybody was shooting. So I was just happy that I was improving my overall group here, even if I had some flyers. But this was really puzzling to me. So I don't know. Let's look at the next one. We had to shoot in those conditions, and this is what I pulled out of it. Now, overall, I'm actually pretty happy. Down in blue, we have my friends again. So if you think about it, on record rounds, that's 6 points, almost seven if you count this 18 here, but that's 6 points that I dropped that I know were shooter induced. That this is not load based because if you look, I was upwind. The wind was coming from the left. This is all upwind shots. I was doing a really good job of staying ahead of it, almost too good. I mean, 14 barely caught. But yeah, again, I've said it before. If I'm going to lose shots, I'd rather lose them upwind than lose them downwind. And I didn't have any downwind here. Eight got away from me a little bit. You can see seven was here. It was creeping a little bit. I probably should have come down a little sooner. But my friends over here just wanted to torture me. So something in my position. I was shooting over a map that I'm not used to shooting. That shouldn't have affected it. I've shot this range plenty of times. I don't think it was the substrate, but there was something I was doing, pushing on my bag without realizing it. Maybe I was trying to avoid something in behind me with the rain coming down. I don't know. But at the time, it just was happening. Now, I can tell you, I went back, exact same range. I shot there today, in fact. I'll do another video on that, and I was not getting any shots that were doing this weirdness on me. So clearly, I worked out of my position problem. I'm pretty sure it had something to do with my rear bag. I think I was squeezing it or hitting it or doing something that was popping the rear of my stock up a little bit, and that was pulling these in. So it's just something I have to make sure I focus on. Whatever was happening this weekend, I was out of position, and it was clearly causing me some problems. And again, we saw this happen a little bit at Rattlesnake. So there's something that's happening in how I'm addressing my setup that is changing, and I just need to be a little more cognizant of it in terms of what I'm doing around my bag. I feel like today at the range I shot 50 something rounds and didn't have any weird vertical ones. So that tells me that if it is in fact shooter induced, which I'm fairly confident it is, that I can work through it. So I've been there, done that. Stuff happens, and you just move on. So there's the final shots of the weekend. Not a super strong way to finish, but it still felt okay. And you know what? We had a really good time. Let's take a look at the final scores here. Final scores kind of shook out at. You can see here, match four. There's no scores. That's the match that got deleted. So we had three from Saturday and two from Sunday. And my buddy Chris cleaned up, shot a 993, so only dropped 7 points. What did I end up dropping? I dropped 14. Okay, I think I said 11 earlier. I dropped 14. Um, not great. Still a high master. Like, here's the weird thing: is you leave a match like this. We shot 1,000 points. I shot 986, and that's still a high master score. That's above the 98th percentile cutoff. I mean, like, how do you walk away from that and not at least say, well, look, I still shot really well? And that's what I have to remind myself. It just wasn't good enough for the weekend. A lot of really great scores. I don't know if I can, here, I'll zoom in a little bit, but you can see here's me with my 986. There was 989s, 981, 9091, 93. So I don't remember where I finished. So that would have been, I don't know, it doesn't really matter, but let's see here. So there was one, two, three, four, five. So I finished sixth. I guess is what it would be. So, not too bad. I mean, it certainly could have been worse. But you know, again, I'm in company of some really good shooters. They shot really well this weekend with the conditions. But just thought I would give you guys another kind of walkthrough of how the match went. So thanks again for watching. You guys have a good one. We'll talk later.